all of you, especially Dr. Asha ma'am, Dr. Raman sir, Dr. Shalini ma'am, and Dr. Joseph Poikayil, who is actually not here right now, but then his presence is here, I would say. And for almost all the students, PG students, as well as almost all the research scholars over here. I don't know what to say. I was, because Shekhar sir was actually embracing the whole topic altogether in a well and structured sort of manner. So before that, when I asked Asha ma'am, what am I supposed to say, then Asha ma'am was telling, like, you can actually talk about your own private experiences. So this is actually a second homecoming for me, because I'm a student of this university, and I still remember, it's like a cinematic kind of a motion picture. I could still remember the way I stand here for my first paper presentation. Hope you all know that I could see that thing from your smiles. It was I think it was in Asha ma'am's class. We were so tensed that we would take around 2 to 3 weeks to prepare one research term paper at that point of time. From the level of being a student who would take 2 to 3 weeks to prepare for a team paper, we have reached the level of preparing a team paper within 5 minutes before presentation. That was through the practice, that was through the possibilities that they have given us, made us, crafted us like that. So I am indebted to this department, my faculty members, my professors personally to a great extent. Crafting the academic eye in me, I would say, in that sense. So the second part of me was open up in the figure of being a teacher, and that too this university provided me that opportunity for the first time, being as an English faculty in the IA department of Trivandrum campus way back in 2019. And so in many ways, this university is something which is very close to me, very intimate to me. And when I am standing here, I could sense that kind of a revelation happening all around me. And I don't know what to tell in general. So I think I will better start with the process of translation that I encountered for the first time in my life when I was doing my coursework as a first year research scholar in the Department of English and Foreign Languages in CUSAT. So this kind of an opportunity was extended by by E.V. Anil and V.V. Swami at that point of time, and I was literally thinking, why such kind of a request came to me? I was simply writing some articles on Modernity, Renaissance and different journals, and I was making some public talks and all. Other than that, I haven't done anything on translation. It was my first experience. And I was thinking, like, translation, and good translation would be like, you wanted to substitute the words in such a way that the idea should be conveyed to another language. That was the whole point I knew about translation. But when I entered into the realm of translation, I didn't realize that it was not a matter of words at all. It was a matter of making intelligible a whole culture to the audience without losing the essence of it, without losing the thematic concern of it. You have to showcase your justice by keeping the essence of the original work as such when you try to convert it or translate it into another format. That was a great realization for me when such kind of an opportunity came to me. And at that point of time, I realized that certain things are untranslated. Because however you try, there are no words to substitute as such. See, for example, certain words like chavu piditham, kadapudam piditham. These are occult practices that's being practiced among the Paraya, Pulaya, Kurava communities of the time. And Appachan was a person who opposed this kind of occult practices at that point of time. So to convert, how will you convert Buddha Piditham? Can I say just like hot capture? It is not possible. No. Death capture was there, Chavu Piditham was there. Death capture was an occult practice that is being used in order to capture the dead souls of the time. The souls of their ancestors are being captured by the certain practitioners of occult practices way back in the 19th century. And Buddha Piditham is yet another kind of practice much about this person, Poikayil Appachan, before I entered into this translation. Have you ever heard of him in your history classes when you were a school student? How many of you have heard about Poikayil Appachan? Raise your hand. You heard about it, thank God. I haven't heard about it. Because there, even when you heard about him, it would be like a passing reference at all. But think about him. Think about the tremendous significance, tremendous impact that he had created. And how the way he planted the seedlings of modernity in Kerala's psyche. And that too among the lower caste people who were considered as ostracized, who were considered to acquire the peripheral positions and marginal positions in the society, who were considered as subhumans at that point of time. How come they have a self-consciousness that they are a human being? To evoke that sense of being being a human being, having human rights is the first and foremost thing that Poikayil Appachan did. When he was, when I think about his realm of action, I could actually divide his reformative politics, the action of, or the realm of his action into three phases. The first one was self-realm, because the intimate realm, he was reforming the intimate realm of a person by transforming the spiritual intimate realm of a person. Because if you wanted to touch the intimate realm of a person, the spiritual part is the best part. Can you imagine? Even if he is an atheist, there is some element of spirituality that you can use against him. That is very important, because spirituality is the very closest intimate realm of a person, and that is the reason why Poikayil Appachan started using the framework of spiritual Christianity, co-opting the Christianity as such in order to when he was starting his reformative politics for the first time. And the second part was moving towards a societal kind of formation. Think about a situation where we are talking about public sphere. The public sphere formation or the Habermas theory of public sphere happens in 1960 only, right? But Poikayil Appachan from the time of 19th century onwards know the importance of public realm or public sphere, and that is the reason why he evoked the sense of community consciousness among the people. The community's consciousness among the subcaste was evoked in Irving under the ownership of a Christian landlord Chakramagala. He was also a slave family out together. They were perpetually the land workers or land workers of their agricultural land per se. They don't have any ownership on their property or anything as such. So when he was a child himself, he tried to he vehemently defied almost all the caste lines that he encountered in his life. So if you're thinking it from this point of time and trying to analyze it, you will feel it is very, very trivial sort of thing. But look at the history of Kerala in the dark age of 19th century, starting from 10th century to 19th century onwards. Think about a situation where people not even consider themselves, not even realize themselves as humans. They consider themselves as a property of someone else. The slaves, they were considered there was a song that Sir was already reiterated. In that song, Poikayil Appachan was telling the fact that how the family of a slave people has been separated. The parents were separated. See that around 4.15 lakhs of slaves were there only in Travancore at that point of time. I'm not just taking the case of Travancore, just in Travancore of subhuman existence. That is what I mean. And what is the sect that you are belonging? And that was the time he declared it as PRBS for the first time in 1910. So there were several attacks were happening because he was basically doing traveling sermons, and it was not an easy task as we see today, like Appachan moving with followers and grabbing some space and convening meeting. That was not even possible because everywhere caste lines were there. Purification and caste lines were there, the audacity of the Savarna, hegemonic people were there. In each and every step you make, you have to think about the step, you have to think about the purity lines that you are going to define. That was the condition. You are not supposed to make a step in this land without thinking about caste lines. That was a reality in which all these kinds of sermons are happening. So it was not an easy task as we think it today. It was a Herculean task. And Appachan managed this with the support of his followers, and somehow he carried out this process of reformative politics in different parts of Travancore, starting from Travancore and extending it to Travancore regions. At that point of time, Poikayil was doing this agricultural labor strike for education, for protesting against the Savarna people for gaining the right to education for their children in Travancore at that point of time. But they didn't have, I don't think they literally meet, they literally have a historical juncture to meet at in person together. But all these things were happening all around in Travancore in different scenarios per se. So his journey was something which included the finding of legacy. It was not a legacy of boasted sort of thing. Some people will boast about somebody's community's legacy. That was not Appachan did. Appachan was evoking the basic sense of consciousness. Being like you are like I am being a human. I have these rights. Being born as a human will give you certain rights to follow, and there is nobody out there to take ownership over you. There is nobody out there to give you freedom. It's already been given. It's already been there, and you are being born as a human being. You will be, what am I saying? Imbibed with this all sorts of rights in first place. So this was a reality that he imbibed in the generation of the time. So after that, as I said, after this community formation, he moved on to the third part of his reformation, and that was basically moving on to another realm, like creating a society, a capable society, which can withstand this kind of atrocities. For that, the first and foremost thing a person required or a community required is education, literacy. The second one is economic power. The third one is political power. So, acquiring around 55 acres of land under Pratyaksha Devasabha in Ereperu, Changanasheri region, way back in the 19th century, and distributing this land among the slaves who were devoid of land at that point of time was an action done by BRBS. Along with it, he started worship centers. Worship centers were formed in different part of Travancore and Travancore region, along with schools for children. Schools where this Dalit children get an opportunity to become literate, best active. So in this way, you will see different steps that he's adopted in order to make modernity possible in the genealogy of their clan, I would say, which was unknown to them until then. So the people who sustain this other worlds, othering process, or other worlds, are getting a pathway to Appachan at that point of time. Then there is this song written by him. We are on the outskirts of Hinduism. We are on the outskirts of Christianity. Nowhere we could see salvation. So where will we go for salvation and redemption? So this was a question he frequently asked, and from 1905 to 1939 until his death, these kind of actions, he articulated this dignity, the sense of self-dignity, self-consciousness, community consciousness, the purpose of education, the purpose of depending on a God who is visible, etc. to the people of the community, and they were creating an anti-caste sort of communion per se. So Dalit Christianity can be seen as a region of non-believers. They were basically not believers as such, because they were basically a group of different sects who always followed their tribal sort of upbringing, tribal sort of rituals and all those kind of practices, even while they entered into the fold of Christianity. Because basically they were not believers as such. They were caste groups who were not believers in general. So Appachan tried to address try to mobilize these kind of people under their fold, under the title BRES, when he was working on that. So the very basic concept that he described in his Isami and Vivian described in his biography is that a Dalit Christian is far better than being a Dalit Hindu. That was a basic concept. A Dalit Christian is better than a Dalit Hindu. That was the reason why people get converted into Christianity. Dalits were basically converted into Christianity. But what happened in reality was the opposite. They had to occupy the exit pathways in Christianity as well as in Hinduism. Nowhere they were given. They were allowed to get rid of this caste identity as such. So that when you're talking about this, you know that how certain people in today's society talking about their clan as something coming from, as if they are the progenies of Brahmin legacy and all. Even though they are Christians, they are progenies of Brahmin, household. As if something is attached with the Brahmin household, something elitistic is attached with Brahmin household. You would see this kind of things are happening all around, even now, right? So that's all make Appachan biography and life and actions of Appachan very, very important and significant. So when I engaged in this whole process of translation, I tried my best to maintain this core and canons and essence of the various life instances that's been portrayed in the original work as such, because that is a very ethical sort of thing that we should never ignore when you are engaging in ourselves in this sort of action. Way back in 1855, I think slavery was abolished in Kerala by Srimula I think he was the one who abolished slavery way back in 1855. But still then, even then, slave trade continued unabated in the Vipero region and Chennai region, etc. And then there was this instance of Chamarashiri market instance where Dalit women were not allowed to sell these shacks of grass by sitting on the ground. They had to remain standing outside the market, in the periphery of the market for selling this bundle of grass. They were not allowed to sit. And Appachan entered the market or entered the scene and annulled this practice. And he even wrote a petition to the Travancore Divan of the time and asked them to give a separate space for them to have to sit and sell their products, and that was being granted at that time. So in this way, there you can see many social interventions that he carried out in his life in order to make things possible, in order to achieve basic human rights. That is the importance of it. In order to achieve basic human rights. And another one is the representation of politics. How he entered into the field of representational politics and how the PRPS women actually called for their representation in Srimula Praja Sabha and in 1821 as well as in 1921 as well as in 1931. You would see how he also entered into Srimula Praja Sabha as a representative and called for political action, addressing the questions of people who were considered as slave until then. So you would see the writings as we already discussed in Oderi Kunjaku's writings like Saraswati Vijayam and all. You will find the slave history is being narrated in fine. So these are certain things we have to keep in mind when you read the life history of legends like this. For me, I'm not taking much time. It's already I took a lot of time, I think. Before winding up, I need to tell one thing because that I feel is very, very important in each and every scenario. Decolonizing the mind was what Appachan did in general, per se, and that was happening much before in 19th century. So think about that kind of actions being carried out by our social reformers. So no unknowing or mistaking mistakenly reading history is not a problem. It is an error. First and foremost, it's an error that you are carrying out. You are reading a misrepresented sort of history, and you don't know. Basically, you don't know what the reality is. In first instance, it's an error. But when you are rereading the same as it is not an error. It is an injustice. Okay. So I think you are everyone who's actually reading history from present is actually creating a past from present for a better future. So history has this interlinkage connecting you from past to present and to future. So history is not about past things that's already been done and gone, but history has this interlinkage of connection. Historical narrative has this ever-living process. It's a living process, just like a living process. It has this interlinkage connecting past, present, and future. So if you are reading history, you are basically drawing history from past to present for a better future. So keep that in mind. Hope this kind of a generation have that power to create a future history that is devoid of injustices. So I believe that rereading of this kinds of legends, life history will promulgate you that sense of a justice in your mind, and keeping that mind, you also will become creators of a better future history, a progressive history in your life. So as a researcher, as a budding scholar, that is the thing that I wanted to tell you. Think and act, and be always be able to support justice whenever you are going through the act of academics. Try to do justice to everything that you encounter. That's the only thing that you can do right now, right? So it is in such a scenario that we are living. Everything is being manipulated. You don't know what is right and wrong. So in that situation, what you can do is, when you are rereading something, recreate it in a way that you make you assure yourself that you are moving the path of justice as such, just like Poikayil and great men in history has done before. So that's all about it. Thank you for calling me for this, taking this session. I don't know whether I've done something, whether something has contributed with this lecture to you, but I'm so happy that glad that I could see a wonderful sort of audience who were enthusiastic about knowing and learning certain knowledge. And I could see that charisma in your faces as well, even though you are feeling hungry. So I'm happy that you are sitting with happy faces as well. So move on and work hard and always stand with the side of justice. That's all about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ajay and Ms. Deepthy. Thank you for that wonderful session. And special thanks to Deepthy for bringing in their personal vote. Now it's the time for interaction. Maybe to set the ball rolling, I'll start. The title of the Malayalam book is Vyavastha and Nadapadagal. Vyavastha is, because of the long-term association, the word is gathered over the years. It could be a misleading term for a book like a revisionist project like this, which the book is embarking on. But as I read I did not finish, I'm still reading. As I read, I understood that the choice was deliberate. The choice of the word Vyavastha was deliberate. There are multiple significations of two Vyavastha. So I'll be happy if either of you can comment on that, or both of you, on the multiple significations of the word Vyavastha. The second is about the project of life writing. We know the process of canon formation. We also know the challenges of reconstituting a canon or redefining a paradigm. So a certain project, a well-established project, will have a set of figures whom we kind of lionize, right? And when those figures are replaced by other figures whom we equally lionize, there could be problems about such biography was written in 1964, if I understand right. So, like, how did the subsequent one? Why there was a need to come up with more biographies on of the same person? Second is, how did the subsequent biographies escape the trap of romanticizing? That's all from my end. If both of you would respond, we'll be happy. I hope after that you will take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Asha, for that very important conceptual kind of question regarding Vyavastha. Vyavastha Padanam, that is actually the title that they have given to their book. Actually, in the vocabulary and theology of Appachan, Vyavastha, Tattvam, Dodam, these things actually refer to, or they signify his own unique, say, spiritual and cultural kind of imagination. So, in the Pratyaksha Raksha kind of cosmology,
Researchers like us to think that, Appachan is still without a legacy. There is no history that I can see. I can see his struggles, He tells how slaves were treated and all of it. But the history is still not very, it's oblivious, it's not seen. This is one thing. And the second thing would be as translators, because that's also sort of an endeavor I have taken very recently. This comes with a huge political responsibility, and I have always been hesitant to take up the literatures that does not resonate with my own experience, So how did you position yourself when you were translating Poikayil Appachan's work? There are a lot of too many thinking. I appreciate you for this kind of remarkable thought process as such. That was something very important as a researcher, I believe. And no question is okay. Every question has a politics, every question has an intention, and every question is worthy. Okay. So the first one is like, how would you position the history that is being, slave history that is being taught by Poikayil Appachan? Or that is what Poikayil Appachan tried to create out of. Okay. So there is this concept called interpolation, like Aldous' concept of interpolation, where ideology calls you, right? Ideology have this back-headed stab on your head that will make you understand certain things as knowledgeable. It is like epistemology, like certain things are said to be knowledgeable, certain things are supposedly be taken for granted as history, and certain things are not fit into the category of history as such. This happens why? Because we all of us are interpolated in one way or the other to this ideological, mainstream ideological processes. So that is what I wanted to tell you, because when I look at history and you look at history, basically there is always this appeal of mainstream ideology upon you. What makes something history? History is a very basic question that we need to ask. There are certain parameters for it. Obviously, that happens. That are things which we unknowingly or unconsciously imbibe within due to this interpolation of ideology, and that is the basic concept which makes us think that this sort of histories can be put into the category of a right sort of history. That is a basic question that we need to ask ourselves. Who will determine the framework of history? Because we are always, when Yogidas Pandita, we talk about, he was the first person who started this Neo-Buddhist movement in South India. And that to way back, much before Southern Ayurveda, all figures coming into the fold. So he was actually following the path of formation, like a Buddhist formation. formation among the downtrodden, creating groups as such, and basically making people aware that self-respect is very, very important whenever it comes to spirituality or believing in any religion or any sort of reformative politics in that manner. So you can say that when Yogidasa Panditwar is actually having a history or like creating a history, Poikayil Appachan doesn't look like creating a history as such. There is problem with our viewpoint or our purview of viewing history as such. That is what I meant by it is not a problem of all of us. That is where this interpolation of ideology happens, I feel, because unconsciously it has a domination over us, thinking that these all things are, certain things are, getting the sanction of being a legitimate history, and certain things are supposedly not getting that much legitimacy as history. So basically, that is what Appachan asked: who will write history of slaves? When they were like engaging themselves in all this lot of sufferings and dying themselves without recognizing their human life altogether, the dignity of their human life altogether, who will write the history of them? That is a basic question. So he was basically making himself a savior, a sort of savior for this kind of people who were lacking history. That was what he did, who were lacking history, and there was nobody to write history about their category, even though they come under the category of majoritarians. There were no people who could actually write the entire life process that they were going through, that they went through. Basically, they are sufferings, I would say, as she already told, basically they are sufferings. But that sufferings, do they have a legacy? If you look at it, most of the time, you could see this mid-19th century darkness was not happening from the time immemorial. There was a legacy of Shramana tradition they had. The Adi Dravidas or the basic inhabitants of this land had a Shramana tradition or a legacy tradition starting from 3rd century BC onwards. Starting from 3rd century BC onwards and continuing until 10th century. From 10th century to 19th century, you will see a dark age of Brahminical hegemony happening. So these people, when you look at the ancestral history or the legacy of these people, you will end up definitely with the legacy of Buddhism or Jainism. But Appachan didn't go beyond that. Why? Because his primary concern was what? His primary concern was to reform these people around him, reform the suffering people around him. Okay, in many of the poems that he talked about Arya Pottanmar and all those kinds of references, yeah, that you can see. This Arya Pottan kind of concepts have something. I don't know much to talk about it. Ajay could give that kind of an explanation for that. They have references to Bodhisattvas or like Buddhism. They have references to Buddhist kind of lineage in that sense. So if you look at the legacy of those people and going beyond some century back, you will see that there was a solid kind of legacy that they already belonged to, but they were unaware of. On reaching 19th century, there was no one to think about it. There was no one, because people were thinking this as a reality, the Brahminic hegemony and this graded inequality of casteism as a reality. They have taken it for granted. There were people who believed that until 19th century, almost all Kerala people or almost all the South Indians were people who rejected wearing clothes. That was not the reality. In Sangamage or before Sangamage, there were people who used silk clothes to wear, to adorn themselves. There were people who adorned themselves by using clothes, by wearing a very dignified sort of cloth at that point of time. But we don't know that history. We are not even when you look at the general education textbook, the class textbooks, you would see where the history starts. It starts from medieval history, medieval Kerala history. The rest is like mystery. The rest is either being dumped into mystery or the rest is either being considered as a legendary. That is the thing. When you talk about Nangili becomes a mystery. There we need to give justification that Nangili was not a mystery. There was a person like Nangili lived over there. And there is a requirement of a justification. That is what I said as interpolation. And it's not your problem or my problem. This is a way that reality as such. So that's what I wanted to tell you about it. The second,
About translation of political responsibility.
about the translation of
And its political responsibility, while translating a figure like
okay. That's what I said, because when this kind of a translation came up to me, what I think was, as a researcher, I'm doing research on subaltern kind of things and all, but am I really contributing anything to the society in its practical sense? That was a basic question that I asked myself. So while doing a translation and knowing about this kind of a person who had done a tremendous job in his lifetime, I think as a researcher, it's also my responsibility to talk about him or to write about him, so that it would be intelligible, making them intelligible to a whole lot of people around, using a language which is a lingua franca in that sense. So it will give more readership, I would say. So when you are entering or using a language which is supposedly called as a global lingua franca and translating it into that language, it will provide the original work with the purview of more readership. The expansion of horizon of readership will increase, right? So that is basically a social kind of, I would say, there is a social kind of commitment associated with it. Even when you are writing or even when you are transliterating, there is a sort of social commitment that you are doing. So that is a basic politics that I found when I was translating this thing. Because when I was translating this thing, I felt that it is a sort of justice that I am also doing this kind of a person by making this kind of a person not to a wider readership. That's what I meant. So that is the basic politics of it, because when you look at each and every text that's coming right now, with a lot of narratives that's actually available right now, you have to think behind it why this is being written. You know that how mainstream narratives are playing around, making us mere watchdogs, and making us think that this is a reality as such. And half said truths is also a lie, right? Half said truth is also a lie. That is a basic strategy adopted by the mainstream storywriters right now. So in Raghava Warrior's history, I would say that Raghava Warrior's history book came out right now. And when you look at it, you would see that a person named Aratupura Velayatha Panikkar in history was described as a locket thug. He was a man who had done that much effort in his lifetime for social reformation, even though his arena, his political action was regional specific. How come a person, an after all history writer, can consider him as a locket thug? And people were like applauding it because it was no one questioned it. Why? Because it has been written by a person who is in a privileged position as a historian. This is problematic. That is what I meant. Who will determine the framework of history? Who will determine that this history is legitimated thing and the other one is not? That is a basic question that we need to answer when you read history, when you reread things and all. So that will make sense, I think. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much for that. And regarding the modernist kind of framework that we are associating with the Appachan, and Souther and all these people, because it is the downtrodden, it is the untouchables in Kerala. They have created the modern in Kerala. At the wake of colonial modernity, at the wake of the missionary intervention, it is people, the untouchables, who have broken ground, and people like it is the Naha women in particular. This is the 200th anniversary of the breast stroke struggles of Naha women in Nanjinad. Nanjinad was actually part of Travancore in the 19th century, until the linguistic reformulation of the states. Till modern Kerala came to existence, Nanjinad was part of Travancore, old Travancore, in which Poikayil was also. So the struggles of Nada women, it happened because of missionary intervention and Christian Nada women wearing the jacket. We find it in Paranjit Vilna. In Nagaland, you have a jacket song. It's how they celebrate the jacket and how they assume a self-esteem and self-confidence by wearing the European dress or the jacket. So this is the 200th anniversary. So from that Nidhi Adiyar and Eshu Adiyar and Shankara Devi and Esther, they were all Nada women who were brutally murdered, mutilated, and they led to death. Nangeli was mentioned. Nangeli happened somewhere around early 19th century, 1803. The Nangeli episode of ending the infamous breast tax of travel. The breast tax was in travel. And this untouchable Avarna woman, an Irava woman from Chertala, Nangeli of Chertala, she had to chop off her breast to end that infamous breast tax of travel. It was a casteist, sexist, humiliating kind of tax that was imposed on Avarna women alone. Only Avarna women who dared to cover their breast or who dared to use the jacket, they were forced to pay that tax for covering the thing. So they were publicly stripped. It's equal to stripping all Avarna women in public. It's a humiliating casteist kind of tax. So these kind of legacies were there in Kerala. And that struggle, that is why the people from the bottom, whether it is Ayya Vaikuntha of the Nadar community, and whether it is Mahatma Ayyankali who led the Pallipuram struggles and the Kallumara struggle, that was the humiliating practice. Kallumara, Dalit women, Kolaya women in particular, they were forced to wear the Kallumara, they had to uncover their breast and they had to wear, they were forced to wear that Kallumara, and then burning of the Kallumara in early 20th century. So the first public schools, the first public spaces, the first public highways, these were all opened up by the Dalit and Avarna strugglers, leaders of the Dalit and Bahujan people in Kerala. So that's why it's a real reformist kind of engagement, an interventionist modernism has played, and also the philosophy of enlightenment, it has played a very crucial role, not just in Kerala Renaissance. It's accepted by none other than Narayana Guru in Kerala in 1914 when the First World War was on. We mentioned about the 1910 peace rally organized by Poikayil Appachan. And in 1914, Guru has made a clear statement that it is the British who are our Gurus. The sannyasi, a bhikshu, a monk like Narayana Guru declared in Kerala that it is the British who gave me sannyasam and therefore they are our Gurus. We must pray and we must